It's 5 minutes with me.
Hey friends, Marko here. Welcome to 5 Minutes with Marko. So, what is the role of the Holy Spirit in your youth ministry? If I asked 100 youth workers, I'd probably get 100 different answers. Maybe for many of you, that's informed at least theologically by your denomination or your theology. Um, I'd say that I've had a bit of an awakening to the Holy Spirit over the last decade and a half. Mind you, that means 46 to 61 years old, a long ways into my faith journey. As soon as many people hear that sentence, though, they probably assume I've awoken to signs and wonder stuff, and that's not what I mean. Everything on the table, I'm in the middle. I'm not a cessationist, but I've not had a lot of experience or desire for signs and wonders type experiences. But the awakening of the Holy Spirit that I've experienced has played out on a couple levels in my own life and faith practice, and in my thinking about youth ministry and ministry practice. My last year at Youth Specialties, just over 15 years ago, we were under immense pressure to perform financially, and it was particularly soul deadening for me. By the time I got laid off, I was close to burnout, both professionally and spiritually. But in the 2 or 3 months that followed, I experienced a gorgeous reawakening of my soul. I felt God's presence for the first time in a long time. My prayer life rekindled, and I started to hear God speaking, nudging, consoling. I knew this was the Holy Spirit, who'd never left, of course. Instead, my spiritual eyes were merely opening to the Spirit's presence. This really ramped up for me when I launched the youth ministry coaching program. When my cohorts were in times of personal sharing, I started sensing that the Holy Spirit was giving me insight that was beyond me. And I even started receiving what could only be called words of truth to be offered to others. I entered into the exercising of this with very open hands, not grasping it or claiming it or arrogantly confident about whatever I might think I should say. But I was amazed over and over again, as I've continued to be over the last 15 years, that what I was hearing from the Holy Spirit was usually accurate and clearly not from the Holy Spirit when it was inaccurate. One of the most powerful of these was a time when I had a strong sense that another person in the sharing circle had a word from God for the person talking. And surely enough, when I called that out, the words spoken had a profoundly holy and truthy beauty to them. And we all knew that we were on holy ground. This has changed both my regular everyday experience of God as well as my youth ministry practice. When I'm leading my middle school guys small group, for example, I'm trying to choose, and it is a choice, by the way. I'm trying to choose to simultaneously listen to my guys and to the Holy Spirit. One of the surprise benefits to me in a youth ministry setting is that I feel unburdened and free. That's because I'm not carrying the absurd responsibility of being smart or insightful enough to always know what to say. This personal awakening and shift in my practice has also helped my thinking about youth ministry and church leadership. These days, I'm convinced that great youth workers and great church leaders of all sorts need to recover the art of collaborative discernment. Great youth ministry takes all different forms because it has to be contextual, more so than ever as culture has splintered these days. But the path to a wonderfully contextualized youth ministry is not merely an effort of assessment and study. In fact, it is first and foremost an exercise of listening. And I believe that listening needs to be practiced in community, which is why I'm passionate about collaborative discernment. Yes, we need to do assessments and learn about the community we do ministry in. Yes, we need to read and study and observe. But more important than all of that is the intentional act of gathering a small group of spiritually minded people to actively listen to the Holy Spirit. Ask, what teenagers have you placed in our midst? No, not just observing, or just observing them is not quite enough. And then listen. Ask, what teenagers are you calling us to in our community? And then listen. Ask, what would a culturally and contextually appropriate response be to reach those teenagers? And then listen. Bottom line number one, Without a sense of the Holy Spirit's role in your life, you will always be limited in your own spiritual growth and practice, and therefore in your youth ministry efforts. Bottom line number 2, a youth ministry that's not informed by active and intentional listening to the Holy Spirit will, bold statement alert, miss out on who God is calling them to be.
The Youth Cartel Podcast Network.